We've gone over this before. If you don't have this book in your library, you absolutely need to have this book in your library. Cutting-edge scientific descriptions of the plane of soul and the seven ether planes. I was asked the question before. A couple people have asked me. They're like, Brother Sharif, how can you know all of these things, but you belong to a religious organization? My answer is my religious doctrine speaks to all of this stuff. And it directs my consciousness to further research in these directions. I have to say that it was my religious organization that sent me in the directions that I went for this research. So in the title of this chat of this slide, I'm using the terminology used in my religious organization, which is the Moorish Science Symbol of America Incorporated, right? So that we talk about the plane of soul, which is of a higher dimension of the 3D plane, and that there are 7 planes, 7 ether planes. Well, guess what? These 3 quantum physicists demonstrate solid scientific evidence that supports the plane of soul and the 7 ether planes. David Bohm came up with what's called the implicate order. The implicate order is a higher energy design order for everything in 3 dimensions. In other words, your physical body gets its instructions on proper function and order of function from a double of your body on the higher planes. We call that double, right? In the Arabic, it's called Al-Qarin. We call it in the Moorish Science Symbol of America, the body beautiful on the plane of soul. Rupert Sheldrake called it the morphogenic field. It's the same as the implicate order, but for living things. And our sister in China, Mei Wanho, called it the biogenic field, or superconductivity in living systems. It's how consciousness is sourced from higher dimensions and placed into the 3D biological realm. Next slide. All right. So in the Arabic, in the Quran, it says Rabbil Alamin is describing a function of God, the Lord of all the plane of manifest. Right? Or, I'm sorry, not Rabbil Alamin. My mistake. Maliki Yawmiddin. I have to correct my slide. Maliki Yawmiddin, Lord of all the plane of manifest, Lord of all the worlds. Well, in the secret orders, that and implied in the Quran, that is also the legacy and destiny of humanity, to be Lord of all the planes of manifest. In other words, all 7 planes, which means we have to have a presence on all 7 planes. So in the Moorish Science Temple of America, we describe those planes: protoplast, earth, plant, beast, man, angel, cherubim. Guess who gives a very, very, very similar description? David Bohm, when he describes his implicate order. In other words, these ether planes are planes of their levels of consciousness. There is a mineral level of consciousness. If not, how would crystals like quartz know how to form themselves into 6-sided shapes? There is a mineral level of consciousness, people, a plant level of consciousness, animal level of consciousness, human level of consciousness, and higher levels of consciousness, people. It is how a cell in your body knows just to be a cell and not trying to be tissue. Because when you lose the connection to the biogenic field or your biogenic self, then that cell no longer has the order of instructions that it needs. And it may think that it's an organ. Now you have a tumor. That's called cancer. See? If and when the linker interface is broken between the 3-dimensional realm and the biogenic field and in a living being, the cells lose their order, direction, and instructions. That's called cancer. Next slide. Paradigm shifting, people. Again, I want to reorient our thinking. Reorient our thinking. We want to have the state of mind of our forefathers. Here it is. Material things in the universe are not nouns, they are verbs. In other words, matter, as quantum mechanics now tell us, matter is just another form of energy. It's just vibrating not so fast. Let me say it again. Matter, your physical body, is just another form of energy. It's just sluggish. Okay? All manifestations or physical things are processes. Your physical flesh is a process. That's easily proven. In the next 7 years, the cells that are in your body today will not be the same cells. Every cell in your body will be replaced. You yourself are a process. All physical things are energy events. All things, including physical things, are in motion because they're energy. Matter is simply slow energy. It's always in motion. The ethers are energies of a faster than light domain. Okay? Shape and architecture, geometry, are the lenses for the energy. And human consciousness and human will is the quantum operator. This is super, 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 super important, people. Some of the stuff we've already gone over, so I'm going to skip because I got to get to some really good stuff. Next slide.
That's some important stuff. I hope y'all taking notes. That material things in the universe are verbs, not nouns. I remember when I first started to explore that concept was with the book God is a Verb.
Absolutely.
I forget who wrote that book, but yeah, these are some very important points.
We have to have the state of mind of our forefathers, and what we're sharing is that state of mind.
Yeah.
Right? Now, we're talking about a substance, a physical substance that exists in our bodies naturally, but we lose it through environmental issues, pollution, poor food, microplastics in our body, all kinds of stuff. We start to lose it. So we have to replenish it. But let's take it in a larger sense, people. Remember, so again, it's not just the substance, monoatomic gold, it's the process of its function in our people. Okay? Don't look at it as the gold and then just me. No, the gold, the monoatomic gold, is a part of your complete process. So now we're going to take it even bigger, even bigger. In the Moorish Science Symbol of America, one of the most contested teachings in the Moorish Science Symbol of America is this: what is meant by the word black? Answer: black, according to science, means death. This is one of the most misunderstood teachings in the Moorish Science Symbol of America. Well, what's science? Well, in the earthly sense, in the mundane sense, black according to science means death. The science is sociology. In other words, people come from places, and one of the places they don't come from is a crayon box. There we go. So when we say we're not black, we're not saying we're not our people. When we say we're not black, we're saying that we are our people. It's just that colors are the improper way to identify nations of people. That's all we're saying. Now, but in a deeper level, follow me. The science where black means death is alchemy, people. What we're dealing with right now. Alchemy. So let's go. Let's talk about it. In the secret science of alchemy, death, the word death, is synonymous with disintegration. Disintegration is defined as the fermentation of elements into a state of dissolution. The alchemical term for dissolution or putrefaction is, guess what? Nigredo. Woo. And it occurs via an extreme heating of the material to be transformed within a containment or flask. In the spiritual death of the ego, the physical body is the flask. The fire that tries it is the true will, developed and inflamed by what? Suffering, persecution, sacrifice. This process is referred to by the Taoists as practicing to die, and by the Sufis as dying before you die. Do you all see where I'm going with this?
Oh, yeah.
Do you understand that our people in America is one huge social alchemical experiment? And that we have already gone through the first stage of the alchemy? Let's go. Cornelius Agrippa, in his book, De Occulta Philosophia Liberi Tres, in other words, the third book on occult philosophy. This is what he said. He was a medieval alchemist. This is what he says. Negredo, or blackness, in the alchemical sense means decomposition. By the presentation, or I'm sorry, by the penetration of the external fire, in other words, the persecution, the suffering, the inner fire is activated and the matter starts to putrefy. The body is reduced to its primal matter from which it originally arose. This process is also called cooking. The black earth is closed up in a vessel or flask and heated. Woof. Doesn't that describe what we've gone through for the past 500 years, people?
Yeah, man.
All right. Dom Pernetti, in his Dictionary Mytho-Hermetique in 1758, said this: putrefaction, in other words, nigredo or blackness, is so effective that it destroys the old nature and form of the rotting bodies. It transmutes them into a new state of being to give them a totally new fruit. Everything that has life dies. Everything that is dead putrefies and finds a new life. In the Moorish Science Temple of America, we have a saying. Yeah, we say black according to science means death, but we also say this: death is not an enemy to man, but a friend. Woo! And guess what else we say? We say that there's a holy ministry in death, that life springs forth from death. That's exactly what Dom Permetti just said right here. Next slide.
Hey, real quick before we go to the next slide, Brother Sharif, it almost seems like with you saying that, and I've heard Bobby Hemmett teach on something similar with the alchemical process that happened to us in America. It almost seems like, despite the looking at it from an intellectual government standpoint, it almost seems like it was the cosmic destiny of the people in America to be called black people, because we are the alchemical people, and black and alchemical is interchangeable. So it almost seems like that was our cosmic destiny.
Thank you. In other words, this is the question that a lot of us don't want to ask ourselves. Why did destiny or fate deem it necessary for us to go through what we went through? See? It's preparation. What did I read? What did Moses tell the ancient Hebrews? He said, we're going to take away the manna, but it's going to come back. You hear me? It's going to come back when it's in the end times, when you will be a nation of priests.
Right. Wow. Some deep stuff, man. I'm
You get it?
You just gotta laugh. This shit is so good. You just gotta laugh, man. This is so good. This is amazing, yo. Do y'all know the breakthroughs and what's going on in the world right now, and the wisdom and man, this is
they only go after the one with the ball. Why do you think we going through what we going through?
Right.
You think the world? You think other? Again, man, we're not paying attention, right? We read stories in the Bible and don't relate it to ourselves and don't relate it to the time we're in. Herod, when Jesus was being born or about to be born, the bad guys knew it, people. You had watchers on the side of the messianic legacy, and you had watchers against the side of the messianic legacy. Both were wise and both knew what time it was. See? All right. But think about it. All the efforts of the ops to hold us back, to suppress us, what is it doing? It's contributing to the process of Negredo.
Whoa. 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 Whoa.
It's contributing to the very thing that's going to make a nation of gods out of us.
Jesus Christ.
You see it?
Hallelujah.
Next slide.
Yes, sir.
In the alchemical process, Negredo gives rise to albedo. This is, listen what I'm telling you all. What I'm exposing to you all are secrets of actual alchemy. But reflecting on what our people have gone through and what you have gone through personally, you can already see the connections. The alchemical process Negredo gives rise to albedo, the white light divinity of man, piercing through the developmental stage of Negredo. It represents man's first recognition of and communication with his own divine nature. You want to back up the slide, bro?
Yeah, my fault. Hit that back.
No problem. In fact, nothing dies except what hinders and obstructs the transformation. In other words, we're not talking about a physical death. We're talking about death of the ego. Death indeed is transformation, as symbolized in astrology as the 8th house, in the tarot deck as the 16th trump, alchemically as the planet Saturn, and the base metal of lead. The Latin phrase, solve et coagula, meaning to solve what is fixed. Solve meaning to make pliant what is solid, can only occur within Negredo. And only through Negredo is divine man revealed. Now you all get why we say black according to science means death.
Wow.
Prima materia is the pliant substance. Okay? In other words, it's what's left after the process of Negredo is complete. In other words, how did Kara say it? Broken down to its very last compound. Isn't that us in America today?
Oh, yeah.
It's a literal return to the original state, the state of virgin matter or first matter, so that the external fire can penetrate fully and activate the inner fire to bring about the albedo state, which is the Big Bang of Western physics. The fact that we have that Brother Rich, you started this community and it's growing the way it's growing. The fact that we in the Moorish Science Temple of America can speak the way we're speaking about this stuff tells you that the Big Bang is happening. In chapter 1 of the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, prima materia equates to the ethers of the plane of soul and the dark matter of quantum physics and the inner fire that must be touched by the penetrating external fire is the seed that came forth from the heart of Allah. What is that seed that came forth from the heart of God himself? That seed is your true self blossoming into fruition. Next slide. This is the last slide, people. No, is it the last slide? No, it's not. Next to the last. Next slide. Y'all know who that is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Aleister Crowley. This is a quote from Aleister Crowley, people. We should found society upon a caste of men of earth. Crowley was a poet, so he was speaking poetically. He said, men of earth and sons of the soil. Who do you think that is? Then he said this, the worst thing they can do is what is done in America, to disenchant the man of earth with his destiny, to fill him with the facts and fancies that enthrall etoliated and degenerated idealists, and unfit him for his evident purpose, that of supplying society with supermen. Crowley said that. You think he didn't know who you were? Crowley said that. That is what we are in the business of, people. I was talking, shout out to my brother Tim Jennings Bay of Street Addiction Academy. He and I were talking, and we were talking about how in the Bible, it says those that will go into the lake of fire, the first people it names is the fearful. The fearful. And how this present narrative is doing everything it can to instill and evoke fear out of people.